My name is Gaeta.
And my name is Emma Crumb.
And welcome to
Chapter Chat. Today we'll be talking about the book, The Namesake.
The Namesake is a book about a family that migrated to America, and the story of their child and the start of their life as
family.
Yeah,
it's just mostly a family. The parents are Ashoke and Ashima.
Yeah.
And they moved to, I think it was Boston, because Ashoke worked at MIT. Their marriage was arranged, so kind of that. They're from India.
Yeah.
Calcutta, I think. Yeah, Calcutta.
Yeah.
And just the main thing we're going to be talking about is like the meaning of names and like the significance, or I guess really the importance of names.
Ashoke named his son Gogol after a book author, because of a significant moment in Ashoke's life when there was a train crash and he had survived.
The only reason he survived is because he was holding the book, and the book is called The Overcoat by Nikolai Gogol. Yeah. And the people who were rescuing any of the survivors from the train crash noticed that there were book pages scattered, and they saw Ashoke waving his arm around.
Yeah.
He was basically like hospitalized for a year.
Yeah. That he just decided to name Gogol after that book because it was such a moment that he had realized was the start of something huge in his life and also the end of something huge. And basically Gogol just signified that start for him.
So we have our first quote from the book, and that quote comes from chapter 2, and the quote is, "Pet names are a persistent remnant of a childhood, a reminder that life is not always so serious, so formal, so complicated."
This quote was about, this shows that names hold emotion and culture, meaning beyond mere identity. The dual name tradition reflects the layered identities people carry, public and private, formal and intimate.
Gogol doesn't really like his name because he, growing up, he just realizes, I have two different names, and he just struggles with his identity and, kind of resents his name a little bit.
Another quote from The Namesake in chapter 4. He hates that his name is both absurd and obscure, that it has nothing to do with who he is, that it is neither Indian nor American, but of all things Russian.
And we basically just covered that on how Gogol didn't really like his name. He kind of resented it because he didn't think that it represented him and who he was. And especially when he went to school and they wanted to call him by a different name, he definitely struggled.
Yeah.
In this part of the book, the author basically talks about the disconnection between having a name and having an identity. Gogol basically resents that his name doesn't have any cultural relevance to how he is and the life he's lived and experienced, and it kind of highlights the issues of being a first-generation immigrant and having to kind of deal with two different worlds, your own and the one that you're expected to live in. So basically talking about that quote is Gogol doesn't really seem to like his name.
No.
You can see why, is because he comes from an Indian culture, but he's being named after a Russian man who is also an author of a book.
Mm-hmm. I feel like, I'd probably have the same feelings if that was me, because it's he has no connection at all, and his dad hasn't explained to him yet, really, and so far in the book, what his connection with the name is. I feel like if he had sooner and actually told him the real story of the train crash and everything, I feel like he might have had a little more connection with it, but it just...
Yeah, I agree. His father definitely should have told him what his name meant earlier, because I think maybe Gogol would have, like, understood that his dad named him after something that was so important. But, like, later in the book, he talks about how Gogol was angry that his father waited so long to tell him what the importance of his name meant. So I think it also could have cured some of that resentment towards his father and, like, prevented it from happening.
Yeah.
I don't really think that Ashoka keeping that from Gogol, especially because he's already struggling with, I don't like my name, I don't know who I am, I want to change my name. I think if he would have, like, told him, maybe it would have gone better. Like,
yeah, I feel like I said, that connection would have been there.
Yeah.
Instead of it just being a name, and especially because his feelings right now are that it is a Russian name, a name of an author that he's never read anything from, nothing that his father has ever shared with him, and it's just like there's no connection.
Yeah, I totally agree. He doesn't, like, have, like, my name has meaning, like,
yeah.
I mean, especially my middle name, like, I was named because my family likes to carry on tradition of naming people after other relatives.
Yeah.
And, like, your name, obviously, your name is, it means something to you. It has meaning to you. But he doesn't have that connection that everybody else does. Because you're being named Gogol after an author who you've never even heard of. You don't even know that you're named after him. And you're expected to like this name.
Yeah. Like, I feel connection with my name because it's a relative's name also. And I feel like knowing that and knowing if Gogol just had at least read the book that had his name in it, like the author that he was named after, I feel like he might have even had a little bit more connection there if he had read that and, like, understood what the meaning of that was.
Right, and, like, his dad named him after the book because, one, he believes it saved his life, and also because it's something his grandfather gave to him. So the book had meaning to Ashoka, and I feel like Ashoka believed that it would have meaning to Gogol as well.
Yeah.
So our next quote that we're going to look at comes from chapter 4, and again, this one talks about, like, names and their meaning. So the quote is, "In history class, he is taught that names have meaning, but his own, he knows, means nothing. He has no idea why he's named Gogol, doesn't know that his father was once saved by the author's story."
This moment shows that the disconnect between name and self-understanding is also highlights it also highlights how names carry unseen legacies, stories that can link generations but are not always passed down.
So basically what we were just talking about is how Gogol feels like he has no connection to his name, and that quote basically sums up exactly how Gogol was feeling in that moment, and the fact that he literally has no connection to his name.
Yeah, like everyone else in the class was like, they had a connection.
Yeah, they always had that sense of...
He didn't have that.
Yeah, they always had this sense of, this is my name, this is where it came from, this is what it means. And, like, even going back to Calcutta with his family, everybody there has 2 different names, but theirs all have meaning to them.
Another quote from chapter 5 about how Gogol resents his name, and after he changed it, the name Gogol becomes for him a mark of difference, a source of confusion and regret.
So this quote, like, shows up as Gogol is just starting to go to college, and he starts to, like, realize that he's questioning his identity in more depth. The quote really just shows how Gogo's name symbolizes his, I guess, alienation.
Yeah.
Rather than being like a simple name, a simple label, he like kind of views it as a burden. He doesn't really like carrying that with him.
Yeah, like you can see it when he's introducing himself to his roommates in college, and he has those experiences in college, and he likes introducing himself as Nikhil because it's like those people know nothing about his past, and Nikhil is just a name that he can kind of lean on, I guess.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
I think that Gogo just really resents his name because, like we've said, it doesn't represent who he is.
Yeah. And when anytime he talks about his name in the book, or anytime his name Gogol is mentioned in the book, it's like the author gives reasons and tells you how much he just is disliking the fact that the people in his past still call him that name.
Yeah, there's literally like references from the book,
Yeah.
or like parts of the book where it's like talking about how his family member called him Gogol, or a friend called him Gogol, and how much he hates the fact that that's what people know him by.
Yeah, and when he met Mashumi, and she knew him from when he was a child.
Yeah, so obviously she's gonna call him Gogol. She doesn't know that he's gonna go by Nikhil. They haven't seen each other in a while.
Yeah, and that was showed that it upset him.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
So I feel like what this quote is saying is, like, obviously it said, if you change your name, it can't automatically change a person.
Right.
So I feel like it's trying to show how when Gogol went off to college and he had met all these people, his name changed, and he tried to become a whole different person, but in the end, he was still the same person.
Yeah, I agree that, like, about the whole personality thing is, like, he tried to become a different version of himself. Like, he had these two different personalities.
Yeah.
Like, you've got Gogol, but you also have Nikhil.
Yeah, and, like, that was shown in his relationships during that time.
Yeah, he definitely treated every other girl differently.
Yeah.
Than, like, because his first relationship was with Ruth, and I think Ruth knew him as Nikhil from being in class together. And then it was Maxine, and Maxine knew him as, I think she knew him as Nikhil as well.
Yeah.
But we get to Mashumi, and she knows him as Gogol.
Yeah, and that definitely changed the way his relationship was with her.
And I totally agree, is that, like, she knew him on a deeper level than anybody else did, because they had a more personal connection from knowing each other from childhood.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
I think there's, like, more deep meaning to the whole Mushumi knows his real name, besides his other two girlfriends who knew him by the name he originally didn't want to go by, but he changed his name to.
Yeah, and you could just see the change in his personality with all of those relationships. Like, he definitely treated Mashumi a different way than he treated the other two.
Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
I think overall Gogol struggles with identity.
Yeah.
And I think really this book just kind of goes into depth about the idea of struggling with identity.
Yeah, I agree. It lets you, when you're reading this book, just want to kind of figure out how you connect with your own name.
Yeah, I agree. My name's Emma Crumb.
My name's Gaeta.
And thank you for coming to Chapter Chat.